Welcome back to 20 Side Adventures. My name's Ryan. This is Commander 101. So we're going to take you through the basics of the Commander class. We're going to talk about the tactics, specific traits that are unique to the class, and things you need to know if you're considering playing a Commander for the first time. We're also going to go through basic themes and just what to expect as a play style with the Commander. If you guys like what we're doing here on the channel, please give a like and subscribe down below. It is always very much appreciated. And with no further ado, let's talk about the Commander. So here we are at the Commander, and you might ask yourself, what is the Commander? So the Commander is a unique style of play in Pathfinder, though it has been used in a couple other TTRPGs throughout the past. But basically, your primary abilities revolve around giving your allies actions on your turn. And these very widely, these are called tactics within the Commander. We'll get into that a little bit more in depth. But one of the unique things about this mostly martial class is that its key attribute here is intelligence. This is going to be very different. This is the first intelligence-based martial that I am aware of. You get 8+ con for HP, so you're that kind of mid-range martial. You're not going to be the most hit points, but you're going to be better than the non-martials. And you're needing to lean into that intelligence for several aspects of your class. Many of your tactics will rely on your class DC versus saves. The amount of people you can affect by your tactics will be impacted by your intelligence, as well as a couple unique features of the Commander that revolve around some skills that they learn. So let's kind of scroll down here on Archives of Nethys, or get past kind of the roleplay aspects and look at your initial proficiencies. So expert in perception, pretty standard there. Trained in fortitude, but expert in reflex and will. So this is kind of counterintuitive for most martials. They're usually will is your weakest. In this case, fortitude is actually your weakest. So you do need to keep that in mind with this character if you are wanting to be a little more frontlining. Skills trained in society and warfare lore, and that warfare lore will be very important later on. You also get 2+ your imp modifier, which because int's a key stat, you're probably going to be a little more skills focused on this martial than a lot of other martial classes that you might play. Trained in all weapons, trained in all armor, and normal training in your class DC. Very basic stuff here, attributes, initial proficiencies. Your first unique factor is the Commander's banner, and I'm actually gonna roll over here for this. Let's see how this works in a video as I try new things. Thanks for experimenting. So the Commander's banner, you carry with you a standard, a banner. This could be a totem, it could be a flag, it could be a unique item, it could be a symbol, whatever your flavor for your character wants to be. This item is important and it is considered your banner. It has to be affixed to a weapon, visibly displayed. You could put it on your shield, etc., etc. The important part now is that this banner gives off an aura. You have a 30-foot emanation where you're granting +1 will saving bonuses against fear effects right out the gate, and there will be other feats and things you can do later to modify your banner effect. Now, this also comes with a caveat. If anyone tears your banner down, destroys it, takes it from you, it has a detrimental effect to your party as morale falls as the banner is no longer there. So do keep that in mind. If you are playing a Commander, you got to keep that banner safe. So here we go, tactics. I'm gonna flip back over to here. So tactics are your primary bread and butter of being a Commander. This is the unique aspect of your class. Now, you prepare them very similar to a spell book. You learn a wide variety of tactics. You get so many when you level up and gain access to them. And then you can train your squad mates in those tactics, and you can only train so many per day. So you'll have more tactics than you can use per day, and you slot in the ones you think are going to be most important for the coming day battles and what you might need. You'll find some feats later that maybe let you switch this out on the fly and give you a little bit more flexibility, but by and large, tactics work very similarly to spells in that regard. Now, you can train 2+ your intelligence modifier worth of allies and how to do tactics. If you haven't trained your allies on how to use your tactics, they cannot benefit from them when you go into combat. So you need to make sure you have enough int to cover the size of your party. So up to 6+ yourself should cover most tables, as well as maybe if there's a GM NPC or some other minions that's coming along with you that you want to be able to affect with your tactics. So let's talk about the tactics real quick. I'm not going to go to each one. There's plenty of videos out there. I have a few early on. If you've seen my videos, I haven't been very fond of the commander, but I've kind of warmed to it over time. But first things first, 2 unique traits exist with the commander. The first is the brandish trait. So brandish is revolving around your banner. Your banner must be held in one hand to do a brandish trait, or I believe the plant banner might allow you to do brandish activities by planting it. We'd have to look at that feat. I don't remember off the top of my head. But keep in mind, if it has the brandish trait, you need a feat that allows you to not be hanging onto your banner, or you have to actively use your banner. Now, not all tactics are brandishes, because there are also some feats that will require brandish. So make sure you're keeping tabs on where and what is happening. The brandish also has a condition that you cannot use free actions or reactions granted as part of the brandish tactic. So if something triggers off of a brandish, you as the commander cannot use reactions that other things might trigger, unless of course the tactic specifically states it. This is because you're primarily using the flag as a signaling device to make these things happen. So that's why it's kind of a little more restrictive on what you have going on. And then tactics. Whole lot to say here in tactics. They'll have the auditory or visual trait depending on how you're directing them. You can't ready tactics. And most importantly, you can only benefit from one tactic per turn. So you can't tell someone to do 2 tactical activities. They can, once they've used a tactic, they cannot use another one if you manage to do 2 different tactics in a round. Tactics are divided into a few different categories. There are mobility tactics. As the name implies, these are going to give you options for your parties to move on your turn. Now, most tactics require a reaction to be spent by the person using them, but not all do, so do keep this in mind. If you're a class that wants to hoard their reactions to use them for other things, like maybe the Guardian or a Champion, you may not be responding to a lot of tactics, though there are some solutions to that we'll get into in a little bit. So you have the mobility tactics. Again, this is all around moving. You have offensive tactics. As the name implies, these are going to be things that are more aggressive, dealing extra damage, imposing debuffs, and things to offensively impact the fight. You then have expert tactics. These come in at expert proficiency levels, and these are kind of, they're not really mobility, they're not really offense, they're kind of a mix of both, or they just have unique impacts on the battlefield. This is where tactics really start to get interesting, and you can do a variety of different things with them. And then after expert, you have master. As the name implies, this comes at master proficiency, and these are much more powerful, more robust tactics. As you go up, the amount of things that happen in a tactical maneuver increase as they just compound the amount of activities that they grant. And then last but not least, legendary. And these are indeed quite legendary maneuvers that are going to be the top of the top for commander activities and just really powerful actions that can be granted to your party. Again, you'll notice here some have the brandish and tactics, some are just tactics, so do keep brandish in mind. Drilled reactions, so you can grant a single reaction per turn to another player. So if you really want them to do this tactic, but it's the Guardian and they need to save that reaction in case they need to intercept strike, you can allow them to make that mobility move from your tactic. They get into position. They still have their reaction to protect their allies if necessary. Everyone's happy. You get shield block, which using your shield as your banner is a very viable option. So then also being able to get shield block is pretty good for the commander. All feats here are pretty normal. Skill increases as you might expect. War expertise. Now this comes at level 3, and this is what I was talking about, warfare lore. You can use warfare lore to recall knowledge on most creatures regardless of type. Your GM might have a caveat on this where they're like, ooh, you know, this one really just doesn't apply. But by and large, you get to use warfare lore, which you came trained in for free and is intelligence-based, which is your key stat, for all of your recall knowledges concerning creatures. So that is pretty stellar, as well as you may use warfare lore as long as you can observe one enemy and survey the battlefield as a result as your initiative roll for every situation. So this is a great boon to be really high up on that initiative order, so you set the tempo of the fight, and that way your tactics are being used when you want them to. So if you want to shift your place in the order for better opportunity, you can. If you want to be at the front and use those mobility tactics to move people into the fight, you have that flexibility. Ancestry feats are fine. All that's normal. Military expertise, this is basically increasing your proficiencies. Expert in tactics, this is where you get the higher tactics. weapon specialization, so you are getting the extra damage. And I think it's important to note the commander just follows really basic pacing for martial, so you're going to get critical specialization. You're going to get the extra boost of damage right along with most other martial classes. I don't think there's really anything else too wild and crazy out of here as you level up. You end up mastery level in armor, you get mastery level in weaponry, and then legendary tactician just gives you the most total of 6 prepared tactics at any given time at level 19. Another thing that I think is just important to mention about the commander is the commander does require a much larger amount of teamwork than most other classes. This is going to need from basic communication during a fight. Hey, I want you to move here. I'm thinking you do here. It makes it a very much more tactical gameplay, because if everyone takes your extra move actions as a commander and just runs amok and it isn't very useful, it's going to feel like a pretty wasted turn. So people need to, I want to position here. Let's make sure we get this flank. Let's make sure we're doing this over here. So that level of coordination is going to be important. The tactics are also pretty niche. So you're going to want to make sure you have tactics and party members that can take advantage of them. So the party playing into having a commander, while not necessary, does help boost the commander's overall performance in a fight. So again, key takeaways. Intelligence is your primary stat. You're going to be really good at recalling knowledge. You should have good advantages on initiative. You're going to be a very tactical gameplay and being able to move pieces on the board rather than just being concerned with your turn each time. You're going to have to safeguard your banner as well as manage your aura, as a lot of things only happen within your banner's aura. That aura is also going to provide a basic buff for your party, so making sure you are centrally located in the thick of it will be crucial for the commander. All right, guys, that's Commander 101. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're playing a commander right now, I'd love to hear about it. If you followed my other commander stuff, let me know if I gave a fairly unbiased opinion on this, because most of you will know I haven't been a huge fan of the class, but I have warmed to it. As always, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, please give me a like and subscribe down below. We're growing the channel at a good pace here after my hiatus, and I just really appreciate all the support from you guys. I'm going to wish you a fantastic time on your 20-side adventures, and we'll catch you next time.